So I'm very glad to announce that we now have our evening plenary speaker, Mr. Devdutt Pattanaik, here with us. Another huge round of applause for him, please. We're truly privileged to have him here with us. Devdutt Pattanaik is a mythologist, author, illustrator, and speaker. He writes on relevance of mythology in modern times, especially in areas of management, governance, and leadership. He's trained in medicine, and he's worked for 15 years in the healthcare and pharma industries before he focused on his passion full-time. He's now the author of 30 books and 600 columns with bestsellers such as My Gita, Jaya, Sita, Business Sutra, and 7 Secret series. He was a speaker at TED India 2009 and spoke on Myths That Mystify, East versus West. His TV shows include Business Sutra on CNBC TV 18 and Devlok on Epic TV. He consults organizations on culture, diversity, and leadership, and also consults various television channels and filmmakers on storytelling. We are very grateful for you to have come here, Devdutt, and we love to hear you. And I'm personally very, very pleased to and look forward to your talk. Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening. It's clear? People keep asking me, how is mythology even remotely connected to management, and how is it connected to NASSCOM, and how is it connected to startups? And it's very simple, really. I look at mythology as a set of algorithms. That's all it is. Just a set of ideas, a set of rules, a set of combination of thoughts which are coming together. And if you look at it very carefully, you start seeing patterns. And when you start seeing those patterns, you start understanding that management is also a set of algorithms, a set of patterns, a set of rules, a set of ideas, and you can then start mapping them. And when you start mapping them, you start realizing how you think, and if you start mapping it with the way you think, you start realizing what are the inadequacies, what are the deficiencies, how do I function, what are the things that I can do, what am I missing out on? And that has been my area of interest, because what we don't realize often is that the management that we are taught in business schools has its roots in America. And most of the people who wrote on management and are still the most famous names in management are Americans or Europeans, and they think in a particular way as reflected in the mythologies in which they were brought up. The stories that they heard growing up, which shapes the way they think and the way they conduct the business. And you can start seeing different forms of it. When you, in architecture, in art, it's just a set of patterns. It's just that we have not been taught this art. The one place where this is taught is in advertising, and they use the word structure for it. For those who are interested in the humanities, it's called structure. So when I read mythology, for me, it's just a set of patterns. And if there is an innovation I brought into this, it was the idea that, can I present the Puranas using bullet points? Can I present the Puranas using tables and flowcharts? So if you pick up any of my books, the one thing that you will see is Lakshmi and Saraswati and Ganesha and all these characters that people have grown up with in children's stories and Amar Chitra Katha are suddenly now appearing in bullet points, they are appearing with flowcharts, they are appearing with tables, because that's how the market today thinks. Most of the consumers are doing engineering, they are doing medicine, they are used to a way, if you look at the textbooks that they read, they are seeing bullet points everywhere. They are seeing tables everywhere. Everything is being crunched to alphabets and numbers. Now we are using emojis, which are actually symbols. Condensed form of language using graphics. When were these used first? 10,000 years ago, 12,000 years ago. If you go to any cave in Bhimbetka in Madhya Pradesh, you will see cave paintings which actually are using various symbols Actually, around the world, they found that the caveman across Europe, and they found about 70 sites spread over 2000 years, used only 40 symbols. Only 40 symbols. Which means they were communicating using what we today called emojis. You know that you can say something rude, at the end of it just put a smiley emoji and somehow the sting is taken away. They're symbols. We get trapped in these words. We don't realize that our ancestors are not communicating like us. So 10,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, there were people sitting in rooms like this. Maybe they didn't have air conditioning, maybe they didn't have light, maybe they didn't have technology, but they had ideas. Ideas about life, about the human condition, and they communicated it with each other using stories, symbols, and rituals. And that body of knowledge, we as Indians are privileged because we have this body of knowledge still alive. That sentence over here, churning out Lakshmi, if I were to put it in New York, people will think, what's going on? Why are IT professionals listening to churning of Lakshmi? What is this churning of Lakshmi? But no one here raises an eyebrow. We understand what it means. It's a story, maybe it has some meaning, but no. Which part of the world can you write that sentence and people won't find it weird? In a NASSCOM session, in an IT session. But I can do it so casually and nobody has a problem with it. We understand it. It is our emoji, which Japanese won't understand, Chinese won't understand, Australians won't understand, Africans won't understand, Europeans won't understand. We have an edge. We have access to knowledge that nobody else has, provided we consider that knowledge to be valuable. And I have always maintained this. If you don't dip into your own roots, you will never enrich the global village. Unless you touch the core of your being, that is what you bring to the table. If today some of the leaders of some of the major IT companies are Indians, please observe, their base is Indian. Their children don't have that privilege because they were educated in international schools. They didn't live in Hyderabad or Chennai or Bangalore. They didn't walk the gullies. They didn't have to deal with the crazy traffic. They didn't watch columns on the road every day and figure out what that means unconsciously. You do. And that's your competitive advantage. You have those ideas. I want to share with you today just a few ideas which present themselves in the form of story. So when you say churning out Lakshmi from the market, what is the image that comes to you? You think of Amrit Manthan, the story of Amrit Manthan, read it somewhere vaguely, somebody has told you the story, maybe on television you saw it. But how is the story told? It begins with the idea of the ocean of milk. You are churning things on the ocean of milk. There is no solid ground. They don't say water, they say milk. Because when you churn milk, something comes out of the milk. What comes out of the milk? Butter comes out of the milk. So milk and butter. And if someone were to look at the balance sheet and say that दूध तो बहुत है, लेकिन मक्खन कहाँ है? In English it is translated as great revenue, where's the profit? And if you say makhan to hai lekin ghee nahi nikla, that means profit is there, but where is the cash flow? It's in the books. Now, it means the same thing. It's the same set of concepts. It's just language is different. Bhasha alag hai, it's a different language. I have to churn out Lakshmi from the marketplace. And I look at the marketplace as an ocean of milk, which means there is no foundation to it. How do you churn? Standing in the ocean of the milk, you have to churn the ocean of milk. You have to be in the market and churn the market. What is the market? All the money that you want in your life is in this market. It is either with the investors, or is it with your customers? It's in one of these two places, right? Either the investor is going to give you money, or your customer is going to give you money. Where is the money right now? It is in their pocket. So all the investors in the world and all the customers in the world with money in their pocket make up the ocean of milk. And you have to churn it out of them. How do you get that money out? Why would they give you, remove this money and give it to you? What is the art of getting that money? And that is the question that people must have thought. Did they think about it 2000 years ago? Hey, how do I get money out of this person voluntarily? The method I can do it, I can just go and take it from him. I can steal from him, grab from him, but how do I get it voluntarily? That's the magic. And the answer, the framework for this is found where? So I'm reading the books, and I find it in the first verse of the Rig Veda, where I find a word called yajna. Or I watch a serial on television, I watch a Ramayana or a Mahabharata, and I see a yajna being performed. And I see what is happening. The man who is conducting the yajna is called a yajaman. He invites a devata, avahan. He invites the devata. He gives the devata something and says, swaha, this is what I give you. At the end of it, he hopes that the devata will say, tathastu, may you get what you want. I see this and I suddenly see a pattern. And I'm like, oh, Yajaman is the investor, Devata is the investee, Swaha is the investment, Tathastu is the return on investment, not profit. Don't be in such a hurry. I will only, and look at this concept, so I'm using words like Yajaman and Devata and Swaha and Tathastu, but what am I hearing? The meaning. Get the customer, make your offering, hope he is so delighted that he removes his wallet and gives you the money voluntarily. Yajna, that is why you have Falastuti. What is Falastuti? Please give me the money that I need to be successful. That is Yajna. Written 4,000 years ago in the first verse of the first literature of this land. Everything is an exchange. This is, look at the movement of my body. I give and I receive. It is not give and take. The Devata is not obliged to give you. He will not give you. He doesn't have to give you. How do you make him give it voluntarily? That's the pleasure of it. He looks at your app, he looks at your product, he looks at your service and says, very good, I am willing to invest, or I am willing to buy, or I love it. I am willing to hire your services. So you are the Yajaman of your Yajna called the startup. Define who is your Devata. It depends which market you are in. Someone wants to sell to an investor, someone wants to sell it to a large corporation, someone wants to go to the market. They are all market. You have to get them. Why would you call? Everybody is calling the Devatas, right? Everybody is going and chanting to the Devatas, Devatas, Devatas. Every startup company is approaching the investor and the consumer. I open up an Apple phone and I go to the Apple store and there are like thousands and thousands and thousands of, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of, I lost my thought over there. And there's thousands of apps over there. Why should I go after one particular app? What made WhatsApp so successful? Why? Why did you get WhatsApp on your phone? A bunch of guys did something, right? That was you were the Devata. They did Avahana. And now you are only giving them Tathastu after Tathastu after Tathastu, several $1 billion worth of Tathastu. They must have done something right in the Yajna. They did something right. They saw the Devata, they understood the Devata, the need to communicate, the method of communication, and they somehow got it right. Now that's exciting, right? That's exciting. How do you do that? And so you see, Yajna is a business model. This is for me the model. This is the model with which I work all the time. It is not a grabbing model. It is voluntarily how I get things out of you. That's magic. I don't corner you into something. You say, look at the Amrit Manthan story. And you suddenly realize how complex it is. Lakshmi has disappeared. The story begins with Lakshmi has disappeared. And Indra, the king of the gods, goes to Vishnu and says, I want to get her back. Where is she? She's disappeared. And says she's dissolved herself in the ocean of milk. You have to bring her out. You have to churn her out, which means you have to work hard. How do I churn her out? So you need, he says, well, you need a churning staff. You need a churning rope. So he gets a churning, and for the ocean, what do you need? So he said, well, depending on how big the market is, you decide the size of the churning spindle. And he says, I want the entire ocean to be churned. Then get the king of the mountains, Meru. And then get the king of the serpents as the churning rope. And therefore they get these instruments. That is easy. But still he can't churn the ocean. It will sink. So he says you have to hold it up. How do you hold it up? You need something to hold it up. It is also obtained. But the trick, the magic problem